All right. Hey, everybody. It's Monday night. It's time for Always Bookin Comedy. I'm Mark Masters. I'm here with Pat DeGeest. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Okay. Let me turn up my volume so I can hear you okay. Where are you connecting with us from today?
I'm in Brainerd, Minnesota today, celebrating 4th of July.
Awesome. I'm not familiar with Brainerd, but I bet it's beautiful. I bet it's a nice time of year to be there.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So we're just going to let's start with how you got started in stand-up comedy. Tell us a little bit about your origin story.
I was living in Florida at the time, and my girlfriend kind of bugged me to do stand-up for about 5 years straight. And I was just kind of thought, she's just saying that because, I don't know. She always says, like, I'm the most handsome guy in the world, and I know that's not true. I kind of just thought it was fluff, and eventually I started writing ideas down and being like, yeah, I think there is something here. Let me try this out. And after 5 years of her harassing me, I went to open mic night at the Palm Beach Improv, and I've been hooked ever since.
That's awesome. So is that West Palm Beach in Florida?
Yeah. Yep. Correct.
Oh, cool. Right on. That's awesome. And how long, but now you're in Minnesota, right? You're not in Florida anymore?
Yeah. That was 2018 when I first did open mic, and
Okay.
I was kind of ramping things up, and then, as we all know, COVID happened, and that put a break on everything. And I'm from Minnesota originally, so not knowing what to do, I kind of just came back here until all that stuff blew over.
Okay.
And now I'm doing comedy out of Minnesota in Duluth.
How would you say those markets are different? You're in kind of rural or small town Minnesota. West Palm Beach is maybe a little more big city. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, back then I was brand new. I was a greenhorn. So the only difference as a greenhorn was I would email the open mic guy, and he would say whether or not I could get on stage, and it ended up being about once a month I could get on stage, which was of course a bit of a pain. But the difference in Duluth, Minnesota, is there is no such limitation as that. So I can get up multiple times per week, which is fantastic.
That's awesome. Cool. But no big comedy club in Duluth, right?
No, nothing.
And you can't drive to
huge.
Miami super easy, or what else is out there? Boca Raton, I guess they probably don't have a scene. Orlando's probably pretty far away. What is that, like 5 hours?
It was about 3 hours from where I lived at the time.
Okay. And is that about what Minneapolis would be from Duluth?
It's about 2.5 probably.
Okay. Do you do that? Do you make that drive? And why would you make that drive to Minneapolis?
I don't often. I do it maybe once a month, and it's usually just because I'll have family there. And if I can, I'll hit up a Twin Cities open mic if the opportunity presents itself.
Nice. Cool. Going to the big city. Awesome. Okay. So been around for a little bit. Tell us about a booking win, something you were really excited for yourself, some stage time you got, and how it came about.
This is going to sound a bit self-serving. I book myself a lot outside of me booking
That's
myself.
That's a great way to do it, man.
Yes.
One way to guarantee stage time.
Right. Generate your own. I agree completely.
Outside of that, let's pick a specific. What's a show you were really psyched about? Maybe because of the lineup or the venue or who was in the audience.
There's one coming up, which I understand I might have you to thank. Jeffrey Asmus reached out to me.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yes.
You guys going to work together? He's so funny. Holy cow.
We are. And that's fun because he's a guy who I had seen. He just popped up randomly on my YouTube. And I watched a couple of videos of him, 10, 15-minute clips from the Comedy Cellar. And I thought, wow, this guy's really funny. And that was maybe 4 months ago or something. And then all of a sudden he just hits me up on Messenger and he's like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. I heard you can put shows together. Can you hook me up? And I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's do it.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good example. So there you go. So the show is Jeffrey Asmus. It's actually Osmus, by the way.
Oh, is it? Good to know.
I got it wrong like half the times I introduced him, but I think it's not Asmus, which is the way I was saying it. It's like Osmus, or Osmus, one of those two.
I'll figure it out by
Either way,
showtime.
very funny comedy seller, New York City comic now, has roots in Minnesota. And
Yeah.
he did my show, and we were just, I mean, we spent 4-5 hours in the car together over a couple days, and just talking about comedy. And one of the things we talked about were some shows in Minnesota. And I talked about you, and so you did a good job putting on shows for me. So that's kind of the way comedy seems to work sometimes. There's word of mouth, there's good word of mouth, there's bad word of mouth. This was a good word of mouth thing. And that's exciting. That's very cool, Pat. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you know what venue, what town it's going to happen at?
Yeah, it'll be in Brainerd, Minnesota, which is about 2 hours southwest of Duluth. Venue is Yesterday's Gone on August 18th.
Look at that. All right. Get your tickets. Are the tickets available?
They are. Tickets available right now.
Tickets are available. It's going to sell out, everybody. Jeffrey he moves tickets. So get those tickets early. Pat puts on a good show. So tell us about that venue. Do you have to bring any equipment to that venue? How do you find the venue? Have you done a show there before?
Yeah, I've done only 2 shows there before, but it's great. It has its own stage and lighting, which is pretty rare in itself. I provide the sound, which I already have. Seats about 90, but I think we can pack some more in if needed.
Nice.
And I found it because I had a friend who does music, and he recommended it. He's done a couple of things there, so he gave me the owner's information, and the owners are fantastic, which is 50% of the battle. Is getting owners who are as enthusiastic and will push the show as hard as you or I would.
Yeah.
So they've been great.
That's cool. That's great. And we got an online streamer who saw him a month ago. Really like that guy. Was that so for Mark in the Carolinas? Was that in North Carolina somewhere, or did you see him somewhere else? Curious about that. Okay, well that's terrific. Okay. Let's see. Tell us about a venue. Maybe how about a venue problem? Have you ever had, maybe without naming names? You talked about having really good partners.
Yeah.
Hold that thought for 1 second. So Mark says yes, and somewhere in North Carolina. I wonder where. We'll find out another time, I guess. Okay, a bad venue. Let's hear a story about a bad venue.
This is a lesson that emphasizes that, at least a lesson of mine, I have to see the venue in person. This is one of the few times I did not do that, and the owners were happy. They were excited. They found me, like, I think they saw one of my flyers at a nearby city and just reached out to me and said, "Can you do it here?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it," without finding out enough information. It turned out it was open air, and they had a railway that was about 100 feet from the venue, and a train would go by every 30 minutes. So I booked some people I had worked with before, and it's just such a bummer to know, like, a guy is winding up, he's going into his closing bit, and I hear a train like 2 minutes away, and I'm like, oh, is he gonna rush it? And is that gonna throw off his tempo? Or is the train gonna come as soon as he's trying to close his set? And it came right as he was closing his set, and he just screamed his closer into the microphone and stood there for 90 seconds as this train went by. And that's when I would have just said, if I had visited that in person prior to the show, I would have said, look, you can't do an open air comedy show when a train is going by every 30 minutes.
That's wild. That's funny. How did you find the venue in the first place?
They reached out to me. They had, I don't even know how exactly. I think I had done some shows nearby, and these towns, I do mostly North Minnesota shows, and these towns are kind of close to each other, but far away from any city of any significance. So I think they all have a small town air, and word spreads, like you can get comedy in your small town too. Just contact this guy, and that happened. So
nice. Well, I mean, do you not run shows there anymore?
I have not since then.
Okay. All right. Well, that happens, I guess.
It might be possible, like in a fall winter thing. They had those like garage door kind of things. They had 2 walls that were all completely folded up because it was nice in summertime. This is only about
Mm,
a month and a half ago. So they were
okay.
all up. So maybe if we could shut all the doors, I would think about going back there.
Okay. Cool. What kind of things do you look for in a good venue? What are you excited when you see? Uh, well, like what attributes?
Yeah. It's still something I'm trying to work on. A science I'm trying to go with. And if people really want to get into the weeds here, my focus is really, like I said, I do small towns that literally have no other option for entertainment, especially comedy. I love to be the only game in town. And people turn out, and if you can get a town that's I've done as small as 3,000 and gotten a really good turnout, and as big as
Wow.
30,000, and
Huh.
of course population helps, so it's I
How do you
would
get the? So let's take a 3,000 person town. How do you get the word out?
it's legit. I have found out it's again, it's leaning a lot on the venue. You go on Google, you search for bars or restaurants, you find the one that has the most reviews and has like a 4.7 rating. Like that's the hot spot in town. And you start with them first and you visit them, and hopefully they have like a side event room, because you really, 2 drunks who don't care about comedy at the bar will ruin your entire show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's very, very preferable if they have a side event room, and then you work out a deal with them, and like I said, enthusiastic owners who will say like, yeah, give me 8 posters, because that's 8 posters at the most popular bar in town is going to get more eyes on your show than Facebook advertising, or I don't know, sticking it up at the local grocery store and stuff like that. And that their staff will push tickets at the bar, and you'll get 2/3 of your sales from a good venue alone.
That's awesome. Mark's chiming in here. We've talked about this before on Always Bookin Comedy. Small towns, they're great places to run shows because the audiences are really good because
Yeah.
they're excited that they don't have to drive 4 hours to Minneapolis to see a high quality. I mean, Pat, you're getting like really legit comedians. Like Mark Masters came through and did some of your shows. So
And he killed. He crushed it. They loved him.
that was a fun show. I still use one of the clips from that show when I'm trying to get booked elsewhere.
Hey,
So
good to hear.
yeah,
But yeah,
um,
yeah, and again, I think I legit, I guess I can't prove this. I don't have the data, but I think it's easier than putting on a show in a big city. If
yeah,
you're
I
at least
agree.
at my level,
Yep. So
I'm
how
not
do
going to
you?
compete with Bill Burr or Taylor Swift coming to town.
Right. Yeah. So somebody watching this might be wondering how, like, we kind of explained how you got Jeffrey Osmus, which is a great win. How do you get your other, let's say some venue contacts you and they want to do a show 2 months from now on a specific Thursday. How would you get a headliner? How do you find comedians in the middle of nowhere? That seems to be like that would be a challenge.
It is. It's kind of a challenge. Most are very, very willing to drive for the chance, and I will say I probably don't use your stereotypical headliner a lot. I probably more often use a feature as a headliner.
Okay. It's a small town. Who can tell the difference? Maybe.
Right. Yeah. If they have a great 30 minutes and it's just someone I've seen come through Duluth, or I at least network with the Twin Cities comedians quite a bit. Yeah, I'll put someone who can do at least a good 30 minutes up as the headliner, and then I'll host myself doing 15. And I know so many quality comedians who can do a killer 10 to 20, and I'll just fill out the rest of the show with them usually.
Nice. And
Yeah.
are they in northern Minnesota or are they in Twin Cities and they drive or?
It's a mix of both. They're
Okay,
they're a good amount in Duluth, and I cherry pick them quite a bit, and I've
nice.
also used quite a bit from the Twin Cities.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
that's step number one, is just if people want to try this, get a small town with 10,000 plus people and a killer venue, and have a good 90-minute show ready, and you can start producing shows.
That's awesome. You said you're bringing your sound to one of these shows. Can you talk about the equipment that you use for sound?
Yeah, it's a Fender Passport is the system.
It like combines. It's like a transformer. Is it that one?
Yeah. Basically, it snaps
Yeah.
together. It's got two speakers that snap together on either side of a. It's basically a soundboard with a handle,
Yeah.
and you
Okay.
carry the whole thing like kind of a bulky 40-pound suitcase or something like that.
Okay.
But it does great sound. I've never. It's not been inadequate yet in rooms that seat 100 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Do
fantastic.
the speakers stand on poles, or do you just set them on tables?
Yeah, it comes with poles. They have a little over the shoulder thing with a couple of tripod
Nice.
mounted poles as well. It's about as portable as I could find and still delivered quality sound. I'm very happy with it.
That's cool. Nice. All right. Passport Fender system. Okay. Something that is a little bit of a curveball. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you about this, but I know that you have done this, and we talked about it a little bit, and I think it'd be interesting for people to hear about. Is you applied for a grant for your comedy business, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you open to talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. That's
Like how did that come to be? That's a very sophisticated move there, a power play, if you will. And it sounds like it worked out. So why don't you walk us through like how you even had that idea and what the steps were to do that and what the end result was?
Yeah, it's how I got the Fender Passport system.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it just crossed my mind. Is comedy eligible for an art grant? And I felt it should be, so I just started Googling art grants in the area, and we had one called the Arrowhead Regional Art Council, I think, or Art Committee, and that's just a Northeast Minnesota art grant. And I had applied for it last year, and essentially they want to fund projects, not fully. They want to help you fund your art project. So you kind of submit a project, and you explain how it will help you as an artist and how it will help the community, essentially. And I applied for that last year, and I I did not do a very good job at making my case. Luckily, they were very helpful, and they said, "Look, this is what we're looking for. This is what you did wrong." And real quick tips, like I said, I had tried to keep my entire project under the art grant amount, which I ended up getting two, one for $2,500 and one for $1,000. And my first thought was, well, they will want the entire project to come under budget. So that's what I submitted the first time. That turned out to be exactly wrong. They want me or the artist, you perhaps, to have some skin in the game as well. So
Okay.
they want you to say, okay, I'm going to spend $5,000 on this comedy tour, and the art council can cover half of that or something like that. And yeah, and it's just for art supplies, sound system. I got sound system. I got a ton of sweet lighting. I actually have money left over. I'm thinking about camera equipment or something like that right now.
Nice.
But yeah, wherever people are located.
Do you have any camera questions? I just upgraded my cameras.
What are you using now?
I use I used to use a Blackmagic system, and honestly, I was just too unsophisticated with it. It's probably a great camera. I just wasn't smart enough to use it. And one of the challenges when you buy cameras, if you're recording video, is most cameras stop at 30 minutes. It's some kind of like tax. I don't really get it. Like they're capable of recording longer. There's some talk that like they'll overheat or something, but it's really like some kind of government regulation. But the rare exception to that rule are cameras that will just record forever until they run out of battery or run out of disk space. And so I use a Panasonic Lumix GX85. And what's funny about this is when I got started, I never did anything longer than 30 minutes. So I didn't even know about that limitation because I was recording like 3-minute spots, 7-minute spots.
Yeah.
And then I started running shows and I was trying to record 90 minutes. And that's when I realized, I was like, who turned off the camera at exactly 29 minutes and 59 seconds? And it happened like 2 months in a row. And I was like, what is happening? I was going crazy. And so these GX85s, you have to like, some cameras you can like change the firmware and like kind of hack them to go longer. But the GX85, you just have to change like the recording type from like some file type to MP4 or from 1080 to 4K. There's just like one menu setting and then it will record forever. So I really like that. So I use that to record 90 minutes of a show. But recently I wanted like multiple camera angles, and I've paid professional photographers in the past, and they're amazing. They really make your shows look so good. But every once in a while, it's hard to get a professional photographer in a small town in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, well, maybe I could teach myself some basic photography stuff. So I killed two birds with one stone. I bought a second Lumix GX85, and I got kind of like a fancy lens for it for taking portrait photography, like people on stage, etc. Next time we work together, I'll get some killer shots of you. I'm getting better. I'm not great right now, but I've only been doing it like 2 weeks, and the pictures look really good. I'm pretty excited about where I'll be like a year from now. And then the other thing I'm excited about is this weekend, I worked a comedy club in Arizona, and one of the 4 shows I did there, actually, well, I did 6 shows, but the weekend shows, I set up the second camera. So I have like multiple angles now. And so I'm trying to like build up to eventually my own shows that I'm producing, filming multiple angles and giving the comics really high quality tape. So,
yeah, that's that. We'll have to, I'll probably be asking questions a lot.
Sure. I'll tell you one other tip that's huge is lighting makes such a big difference. Even a crappy camera, if you have good lighting, it really helps. And for Caucasians, which are a lot of comedians, you got to get yellow in your lighting. It can't be blue. People look terrible when they're lit with some kind of blue light. And most LED lights, they over time they fail into blue, and you just look you look terrible. You look gross when you're in bad lighting. So even an amazing camera will not do a good job if the lighting isn't great. So you got to invest in good lighting, and you can get gels. Like if you already have, like if you pre-bought some of my spotlights that are very expensive, they only do like this harsh white, but I can put like yellow gels, which is basically like a see-through plastic thing, and it will tint the light. And once you tint it a little bit amber, is the more industry term, but for layman, it's yellow. The comics, they'll look great. They'll look really good. So lighting, cameras that can record more than 30 minutes. And then obviously the sound is super important too. I think you probably remember when I did your show, I was recording in stereo and the mic feed. If you combine all those things together, I mean, you can have a video that's like a don't tell video, which is, I would say, shout out to them. They're really like raising the bar for online comedy video quality.
Yeah, they do good work, and that's good. It's good to know. You should do a whole episode of this, or write a blog or something, because that's the frontier I want to cross into next. And right now I'm just every show I'm just so focused on being a good host, and then when the show's over, like, man, I should have got some good pictures and video to help promote this. So that's exactly where I want to dive into.
Yeah, that's great. I always say, like, I'm happy to talk about, like, if you want to text me or email me or call me and ever have any questions, I'm happy to share information, because my feeling is, like, if I learn something and I make like 5 mistakes before I figure it out and I pass that on to somebody else and your show is better, it helps me in the long run. Like, I want all comedy shows to be good comedy shows, because it just takes one bad comedy show to, like, somebody will never go back to an independently produced comedy show ever.
Right.
And that hurts. Those people might come to vacation in a place where I'm running a show, and I want them to have had a quality experience in the past and not to be like sweating bullets. Like, is this going to be any good? I have no idea.
Yeah. And we've all been to some bad poorly
Yes.
produced comedy shows. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think the same thing. It's just like you're killing comedy for everybody who just sat through this.
Right. Okay, let's talk about some road stories. To give me, let's start with the bad, so we can finish with something good. So any like nightmare? You drive a lot. You go all over the place. I assume sometimes you take comics with you. Sometimes you're on your own. Any funny or miserable experiences you can share?
Certainly funny stuff when we're with comedians. Yeah, I've done quite a few overnighters with guys, and I won't name any names, but one guy, he's just a ladies' man. He's a charmer, and after a comedy show, he loves the chase, and he will. He's a catch and release kind of
Okay, all right.
dater, and I've done some shows with him, and he hooks these women in, and it's almost like an art watching him work. And they'll be eating out of the palm of his hands. And then when he switches off, because they'll start calling them dude, and he'll be like, "Well, I'm gonna take off, dude. See you later." and I feel so bad for these women that like he's
That's funny.
and he's a great comedian.
Are you like sharing a hotel room with this person, or a car ride, or are they independently getting there and lodging?
Both car ride, Airbnb, camper, whatever is available. You gotta keep the budget low.
Yeah, exactly. Any good I just got back. I just drove 13 hours today to get back to Denver for this taping. Brutal. Woke up at 4 a.m. in a gas station parking lot. And I do want to say to the jerk whose car alarm went off twice. I slept 6 hours last night. Like it's already a bad enough sleep, and this idiot, his car alarm went off twice. And anyways, that's besides the point.
Can you sleep well in a car?
I did last night. I don't always do that, but sometimes to save money, I made a deal with myself about merch sales last night, and I didn't sell enough in merch to earn a motel room. So I slept in a car, and honestly, like, it worked out for the best, because I really only had about 6 hours to stop for the night. And
Okay.
this is going to sound silly, but if you get a hotel room and you check in and you drag in your luggage and you park your car, it doesn't take 2 minutes. It takes like 15, maybe even 30 minutes to do that. And if I can just pull into a parking lot at the moment I'm too tired to drive anymore, and go to sleep and wake up 6 hours later and be immediately back on the road, it's uncomfortable, but it's way more efficient time-wise. So that's Mark Masters' life hack for saving money on the road. May pay for it in medical bills down the line, but for now, it's saving money. Do you have any good road comedy money-saving tips?
Well, I was going to ask you to elaborate on that one more. Like, I'm a terrible sleeper in a comfy bed. How do you sleep well in a car?
Yeah, well, okay. So last night was like a total exception. I do this about once a year, I think, where last night I just slept in the driver's seat. I had an eye mask. I had a blanket. It was funny when I left Phoenix. It was 103 degrees at 9 p.m. at night. 103. But I got lucky because it took 2 hours to drive to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is like 6,000 vertical feet higher. And when I woke up this morning, it was 56 degrees. That's like a 50-degree swing. So I had a blanket, and I didn't sleep very well, to be honest. But normally, when I sleep on the road, I have a pretty sophisticated system, I would say. I turn my car kind of into an RV. I put the passenger seat all the way up. I have a platform bed that I put not a real mattress on, but it's a single XL. So I'm a kind of tall guy, and I fit on the mattress, and I have real sheets and a blanket and a pillow, and I run a little battery operated fan for a little noise mitigation, and then I block out all the windows. That's a huge thing. It helps with the light. It makes me feel safer, and that's basically the nuts and the bolts of it. And I sleep. It didn't always I gotta say I've gotten used to it. Like now I can sleep like 7 straight hours. If the temperature control is a problem, like
Yeah.
if it's the dead of summer or it's the dead of winter, I have a new rule. I won't anymore. If it's under 32 degrees, I won't sleep in my car. And I used to do it with like a sub-zero sleeping bag. But one of the challenges is you have to scrape ice off the inside of your windshield when you wake up because you're like breathing in there and there's all this humidity
Yeah,
and it freezes
sure.
on all the glass surfaces. So, and I'm just worried that I'll never wake up one of these days. But anyways, yeah. All right.
We need
Any
like
quick
an Airbnb just for comedians kind of deal, right? Like comedians putting up comedians
Yeah, well,
for
that
networking.
over time, that's really helpful. Like you meet people, you go back through. I'll say this. When I won't say the exact town. I don't want to blow up anybody's spot, but I was in a place on this road trip where I was going to sleep in my car, and a comedian caught wind of it, and bless them, they were like, "We have a guest room. You're coming on over." And I said in the morning, I was like, I could get used to this. I took a nice hot shower in the morning.
Oh
That's
yeah.
another. So I also, this is a very common comedian hack, but I have a Planet Fitness membership. And so like, if I don't stay in a hotel and I need to take a shower, their
Yeah.
Planet Fitness is almost everywhere. So you pull off, take a shower, get a workout in. So it's not glamorous, but to me, it motivates me. It fuels me to write more, to be funnier, to get better gigs that come with hotel rooms, you know?
Right.
So anyways, all right, we got to wrap this up. Any thoughts on saving money on the road?
Yeah, I haven't got any good hacks, nothing like that. I
Okay.
generally every show I do is within right now a 3-hour radius of where I live.
So you just
So
drive
I
there.
will just do the turnaround myself or make sure I have a if the show's selling well ahead of time, I'll buy an Airbnb and act like I'm big time in it with the other comedians. But
Right. Nice. Well, that's cool. That's good. All right. Any last any great road travel stories? Road comedy. Send us off.
I don't know if I have any great road comedy stories. I'll give a couple more tips that people
Okay.
probably all know. Um, Tip the wait staff very well. Always do that. You want them on your side. You want to make this a recurring venue, and you want the wait staff on your side. So I tip them very well. I'm also trying to find like a correlation between beer price and what I can charge for a ticket.
Ah,
Which maybe it's elitist or classist, but I've struggled in. I hate to say it, I've struggled in dive bars, and I do well at a brewery that charges $9 for a craft beer, and I feel like there's a correlation. People
yeah.
who can drop $60 on craft beer also have no trouble paying $20 for a ticket, and
Yeah, I'll give you a related example. I've run a 3 shows starting tomorrow. One of the shows, the ticket prices are almost double the other 2 shows, and that one is for sure going to sell out. It's the only one that I'm not worried about ticket sales at all. So it isn't always that like lowering ticket prices does not necessarily help ticket sales. In fact, sometimes having a more expensive ticket, I don't get the psychology or whatever, but there are people that look at it and are like, oh, $5, this isn't worth going to. I'm not
yeah,
24 anymore. If, oh, $25, okay, that's going to be a quality event. I'm
yeah,
willing to, and I'm going on a date maybe, I want to impress this person. Okay, I'll spend 30
that too.
bucks. I'm not going to spend $3, but I'll spend 30.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that goes back a little bit to finding the hot spot or the place to be in town.
Yeah.
The hot bar where people go to have a good time. And I just think there's I don't know, an air or a presentation of competence that goes along with that. And I haven't locked down the formula, but I'm on to it. I'm trying to
Yeah,
sniff it
and I
out.
think it's better in the long run for the show too, because as the budget increases, you can pay the talent more, you can help out with lodging, stuff like that. You might be
Mhm.
able to get some better equipment, etc. I'm almost to a point where I might start culling some of my shows, and when I get to a point where I need to trim a couple of them, it's probably it will be a combination of what's fun for me, like what's a good room and what pays well and has a good budget.
Yeah.
And also some other logistical things, like if it's hard to like get equipment in, or it's very hard to get to, like a show that's 4 hours away is not as attractive as a show that's a 20-minute drive away, etc. But yeah,
It's a good problem to have.
that's a great closing thought. Cheaper tickets is not always a solution.
Agreed.
Yeah. There's an old business maxim that if you compete on price, you lose on price. And I'm not sure I still have my head wrapped around that. But I think the idea is, if you try and have a cheap, crappy product, there's always somebody who will make a cheaper, crappier product. And if you're
Yes.
going after the customers who are price based, they don't care about the quality of what you do. They just care how cheap it is. There's always somebody who can do it cheaper than you. And that's not a good business to be in. You want to be in a high quality, Pat DeGeest quality level comedy show. And yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Awesome. Pat, this is great. Thanks for joining me. In case you tuned in late or something, Pat's in the northern Minnesota area. He's got a show with Jeffrey Osmus coming up, which is exciting. And we got people online saying thank you. And we'll see you next Monday with Always Bookin Comedy. Stick around, Pat. I want to talk to you after this. But bye-bye, everybody, for now, if it's online.